Welcome, Fantasy Football Drafters. My name is Andrew Erickson, and I am thrilled to be your guide as we go through the 2024 way too early top 24 wide receiver rankings. Because at FantasyPros, there is no off season. We're already diving deep inside the top 24, but before we dive head first, if you want a chance to win a premium one-year subscription to FantasyPros, all you have to do is subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, comment below in this video, and that is it. I'm announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Now grab your notepads. Let's uncover the top pass catchers in the way too early top 24 wide receiver rankings. Let's go. Number 24, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley caught 76 passes for over 1,000 yards in his first year back from suspension, totaled nearly 1,800 air yards on a 22.5% target share and 36% air yard share. He scored 8 touchdowns. Across 17 games, he averaged 11.3 points per game, making him a boomer bust wide receiver 2 in fantasy formats. Wide receiver 17 overall, but wide receiver 26 in points per game. However, Ridley led the entire NFL in end zone targets at 24. He was a wide receiver 10 in expected fantasy points per game, but he never fully took advantage of his elite opportunities to churn out a fantasy wide receiver 1 season. But there's no doubt that the rhetoric around Ridley will be negative heading into the 2024 season after the human hype piece failed to deliver. But the only reason Ridley busted was because he was getting impossible expectations placed on him for a player who hadn't played since 2021. I'd buy the dip on Ridley, assuming he returns to the Jaguars as an unrestricted free agent. Number 23, Tank Dell. As a rookie, Tank Dell posted an identical air yard share to Nico Collins at 31%, while falling just short in target share at 21%. Note that Dell posted over 1,000 air yards in just 10 games played as a rookie. In those games, Dell posted a 21% target share, 33% air yard share, and 14.2 points per game scored. In the 8 games that Collins and Dell played together, each missed a game with an injury, the production was nearly identical. 13.9 points per game for Collins and 14 points per game for Dell. Collins will be drafted ahead of Dell in every draft this year, but I like the value of taking the rookie breakout later in his second season come 2024. Number 22, Deebo Samuel. Samuel was electric during the fantasy football season, finishing as the fantasy wide receiver 12 overall in 15 games played, averaging 14.2 points per game as a wide receiver 9. He ranked second on the team in target share at 22% and second in total touchdowns with 12 with his dual usage as a rusher and receiver. He finished the year with the most total red zone touches among all wide receivers. But as we project Samuel next year, 2 points need to be strongly considered. First, his injury history is based on how physical of a player he is. Second, he may experience impending touchdown regression, given he scored more fantasy points above expectation than any other wide receiver during the regular season. He was a wide receiver 26 in expected points per game. His rushing production is difficult to rely on year to year, and Brandon Aiyuk is continuing his ascent into the top-tier wide receiver conversation, entering a contract year. Number 21, Zay Flowers. Rookie Zay Flowers emerged as Lamar Jackson's top target in the AFC Championship game, hauling in 5 of his 8 targets for 24% target share for 115 yards, and he scored the Ravens' lone receiving touchdown on a spectacular 50-yard play. As he has done all season, Flowers was the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver for Baltimore. He led the Ravens in air yards and target share at 24%, trolling over 1,000 air yards, 1,000 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns, plus 1 rushing touchdown on 86 catches in 18 games played. Although his final stat line as a wide receiver 29 overall and wide receiver 31 in points per game suggests he left some production on the table. He finished 11th in route participation among all wide receivers at 88%. Only 3 wide receivers with a route participation that high finished with fewer than 11 points per game last season. Number 20, DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf finished 2023 with 66 catches on a 23% target share, accumulating over 1,100 yards and over 1,500 air yards, with a 40% air yard share that ranked 14th as the wide receiver 16 overall. He was 22nd in weighted opportunity. Demonstrated his big play capability with 37 catches of 20-plus yards, which ranked 10th. He finished 20th in points per game at 12. He scored 8 touchdowns because he's a red zone monster, 5th most end zone targets with 15. He also missed the first game of his NFL career. He's an Iron Man and is a staple of consistency as a high-end fantasy wide receiver 2 that could benefit from a heavier pass philosophy in Seattle in 2024. New Seahawks offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb's Washington Huskies finished the last 2 college seasons under his coaching, leading college football in passing yards per game. Number 19, Mike Evans. Evans ranked as the wide receiver 4 in 2023, averaging 14.4 points per game as a wide receiver 8. He caught 76 passes for over 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns, but he'll be a free agent in 2024. with potential landing spots including back in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield or in Carolina with some of his former coaching staff. Even at age 30 though, Evans showed zero signs of slowing down in the post-Tom Brady era last year. Just goes to show, if you see enough air yards, there's enough of a reason to believe production will follow. Hint, hint, draft Calvin Ridley. Brady must have left Mike Evans the fountain of youth, considering Evans posted the best yards after the catch reception ever in his career in 2023. Number 18, Jaylen Waddle. Tyreek Hill will be at the top of nearly every single fantasy football draft board in 2024, whereas Jaylen Waddle will be drafted much later than in 2024 after his worst professional season to date. Wide receiver 34 overall and wide receiver 24 in points per game. But he still managed over 1,000 receiving yards in 14 games. The issue was he scored just 4 times, but his 24% target share was still excellent. He also posted his highest yards per route run, which ranked 6th, and PFF receiving grade of his career, which ranked 5th. He's a sharp buy low candidate heading into next year. Number 17, Devonte Adams. Adams showed no signs of slowing down despite the quarterback carousel in Las Vegas. The alpha wide receiver posted a 45% air yard share with nearly 1,900 air yards, a mark that ranks 2nd among all wide receivers. He also commanded a league-leading 33% target share with 103 catches on a whopping 175 targets. Adams' ability to find the end zone was also on full display as he secured 8 touchdowns with the 2nd most red zone targets in the NFL. One thing's for sure when it comes to Adams, the guy is a red zone monster. He averaged 12.6 points per game, which placed him as the 18th wide receiver in per game average and wide receiver 11 overall. Even at 31 years old, Adams has shown to still be QB proof enough to be a high-end fantasy wide receiver 2 with an elite red zone role in the Raiders offense, regardless of the quarterback play. Number 16, Nico Collins. Collins' third-year breakout was truly remarkable. The former Michigan product had glimpses of potential in his first 2 seasons, but being paired with CJ Stroud unlocked his fantasy ceiling. He was yards after the catch god. Nearly 1,500 receiving yards with just 1,370 air yards. 641 yards came after the catch for Nico Collins. He had a 24% target share. His 3.11 yards per route run ranks 2nd among all wide receivers. Only 3 other players have accomplished that feat since 2017. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and Julio Jones. Good company to be part of. Collins averaged 14.6 points per game in 17 games played and 15.7 points per game in 15 games played alongside CJ Stroud. The one thing fantasy drafters need to be wary about, though, when it comes to Nico Collins, is how much above expectation he performed. Only Deebo Samuel scored more points above expectation than Collins did last year. He was wide receiver 21 in expected fantasy points per game. Houston also has the 5th most cap space to add more competition at wide receiver in free agency this offseason. Number 15, Rashied Rice. Rashied Rice caught 105 passes for 1,200 yards in 20 games played in 2023 with 8 receiving touchdowns to go along with a 19% target share. Former standout from SMU averaged 10.9 fantasy points per game, ranked 29th, and his role grew substantially after week 6. And the rookie delivered, averaging 12.1 points per game, placing him firmly inside the top 20 wide receivers. He finished the year with a 28% target rate per route run, that ranked 13th among all wide receivers last season. He was Mahomes' primary underneath option with the lowest average depth of target in the NFL among wide receivers at 5.2. He also finished 6th in targets inside the 10-yard line, more than Travis Kelce. The only concern for the Chiefs wide receiver entering year 2 is that the Kansas City Chiefs will be a favorite team to add more competition at the wide receiver position. Number 14, Amari Cooper. Cooper's season-long statistics were impressive during the fantasy football season despite playing with 4 different quarterbacks. He finished 10th in receiving yards and tied for 2nd behind only Tyreek Hill in 20-yard gains. He had the 10th highest air yard share at 41%. He was 17th in points per game as a wide receiver 18 overall, but projecting Cooper ahead, we can actually look at his 5-game splits with Deshaun Watson as his quarterback. 23% target share and 42% air yard share were in line with his full season-long usage numbers with the other quarterbacks. He averages under 100 receiving yards per game, 14 fantasy points per game ranked 6th, and his 15.7 expected fantasy points per game ranked 15th. Number 13, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was a league winner last year. 3rd in points per game, wide receiver 8 overall, 3rd in target share at 31%. But he's going to be 32 in 2024. But he still showed no signs of slowing down with Justin Herbert as his quarterback. Caught 108 passes on 150 targets, totaling over 1,200 receiving yards. Look, his ability to make plays was evident. 24 catches of 20-plus yards, and he reached the end zone 7 times. Despite missing some games, he played 13 throughout the year and was averaging a robust 17.3 points per game in half PPR scoring. The concern with Keenan Allen is that the passing volume projects to come down in Los Angeles under the combination of new head coach Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. Worst case scenario, he ends up as a fantasy wide receiver 2 like DeAndre Hopkins last year in a run-heavy Tennessee Titans offense. But the more likely case is he ends up like Devonte Adams or Michael Pittman Jr. as a back-end fantasy wide receiver 1, even in below average passing volume offense. And that's because he's the clear alpha when it comes to targets in this passing game, and Justin Herbert is still his quarterback. Number 12, Chris Olave. The usage metrics were all there for Chris Olave in 2023. Commanded a 25% target share, 40% air yard share with over 1,800 air yards, ranked 8th in the NFL. He made significant impact, 87 catches from 138 targets, ranked 12th. He amassed over 1,100 receiving yards, ranked 17th. Found the end zone only 5 times, ranked 21st among wide receivers in points per game. Nothing about Olave's talent suggests he should be a fantasy wide receiver too, but that's likely going to be the case with Derek Carr back as his quarterback in New Orleans. However, the duo showed some glimpses of improvement in the second half of the season after the bye week. Olave ranked 2nd in catchable target rate at 89%, averaging almost 13 points per game as a wide receiver 16. Adding Clint Kubiak from the Kyle Shanahan coaching scheme as the Saints' new OC next year also bodes well for Olave to take another step forward in year 3. Number 11, DJ Moore. DJ Moore finished with 96 catches on 136 targets in 2023, accumulating over 1,300 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. These impressive numbers placed him as 6th overall at the wide receiver position in total fantasy points and 10th in points per game. More importantly, he captured a 43% air yard share within his team, the 4th highest in the NFL. Also saw a top 10 target share at 29%. He was 6th in total weight opportunity because he was so important to the Bears' passing game. But more notable is his splits with quarterback Justin Fields over their 12 games played together. Moore averaged almost 17 points per game, demonstrating high-end wide receiver 1 production, amassed over 1,100 receiving yards, and again, 8 touchdowns, with impressive 91 receiving yards per game. Therefore, fantasy managers need to adjust expectations if Justin Fields gets replaced by a rookie quarterback coming in for the Bears, because that will hinder Moore's fantasy value in 2024. Next up here, number 10, Michael Pittman Jr. Pittman proved his alpha status all year long in the Colts offense with 109 catches on 156 targets, accumulating over 1,100 receiving yards. Like his teammate Josh Downs, though, he had a bad touchdown production with only 4 touchdowns. Even so, in 16 games played, he racked up nearly 200 fantasy points as a wide receiver 15 overall, which averages out to a wide receiver 19 per game pace. Pittman commanded nearly 1,300 air yards with a 30% target share to boot, the 4th highest among all wide receivers. Pittman is accompanied by a super high floor that can be further unlocked with better touchdown variance next year should Anthony Richardson take this offense a step further in his 2nd season. Number 9, Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk operated as the more traditional wide receiver 1 in the 49ers offense last year, leading the team with nearly 1,500 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns in 19 games played, despite a mediocre role in the red zone. He led the 49ers offense with 24% target share and 39% air yard share, ranked 15th in the league. He finished 20th overall in weighted opportunity. Aiyuk averaged 12.4 fantasy points per game as a wide receiver 19, finishing with career highs across the board in his 4th season. Entering contract year at age 26, we still may not have seen the best to come from Aiyuk, fresh off a 2nd consecutive year as a top 15 wide receiver finisher in half PPR. His efficiency numbers are off the charts as a top 5 finisher in yards per route run 2023. Number 8, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's 2023 peripheral metrics are tantalizing, with his actual production lackluster based on the horrible quarterback play he had in New York this past year. He finished with 95 catches from a whopping 168 targets, amassing over 1,000 receiving yards, but only found the end zone 3 times. He wrapped up the year with 165 fantasy points in half PPR formats, which placed him 31st among all wide receivers, averaging under 10 points per game, which ranked 39th. Wilson was targeted, though, on 30% of the Jets' passing plays, the 5th highest rate in the NFL. He led the NFL also in air yard share at 46%. Assuming the Jets quarterback play stabilizes and improves with Aaron Rodgers back quarterback, Wilson's ceiling should and will rise even further in 2024. Number 7, Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is the alpha in the Rams passing game. The BYU product caught 9 balls for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets for 29% target share, with 100 yards coming after the catch in his final game as a rookie, which capped off an historic rookie campaign that saw him break the receptions and receiving yards records for a first-time player. In his 18 games played, Nacua posted a 29% target share, averaged 15.3 points per game as the wide receiver 4 in points per game, 1st in yards after the catch, 3rd in receiving EPA, and 14th in weighted opportunity. Number 6, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown rounded out the top 5 fantasy wide receivers in 2023, averaging 14.8 points per game. He had 105 catches for over 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns, demonstrating his ability to make big plays. Brown's only blemish was he, like the Eagles' entire offense, did not finish strong, From weeks 11 through 17, even with Dallas Goedert out of the lineup for a handful of games, AJ was outscored by Devonta Smith as a wide receiver 25 and wide receiver 35 in points per game. The Eagles' late season collapse trickles over to 2024. Brown's production might take a hit, but give credit to Philly for looking elsewhere to find help on their offense after they hired Kellen Moore after a disappointing one-year stint with the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown. During the fantasy football regular season, St. Brown finished third, averaging 16.5 points per game. He had 112 catches for over 1,300 yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. In the season's entirety, including the playoffs, St. Brown commanded a 30% target share, ranked 6th in the NFL, and a 34% air yard share. He finished 4th overall in total receiving EPA and 11th in total weighted opportunity at the receiver position. Number 4, Tyreek Hill. Hill was 2nd overall in total points among wide receivers, scoring nearly 300 fantasy points, just shy of 20 points per game. He recorded over 1,700 receiving yards from 112 catches on 158 targets, showcasing his deep threat ability with the longest reception of 78 yards and 12 receiving touchdowns. Hill will be 30 years old after his best season to date in points per game, after averaging a ludicrous, league-leading 3.72 yards per route run. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb. Through 18 weeks, CeeDee Lamb finished as the top wide receiver in half PPR scoring, amassing 335 fantasy points at 19.7 per game, ranked 2nd best. He had 103 catches on 181 targets, totaling over 1,700 yards with a long catch of 92. He scored 12 receiving touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. Including the postseason, Lamb posted a 29% target share and flirted with nearly 200 total targets and 2,000 air yards. 9th in weighted opportunity and 19th in air yard share. 1st in red zone targets, which tends to be the number 1 predictor of elite wide receiver 1 fantasy season. But Lamb performing so well above expectation was tied to his superior role in the red zone. But the fact that Dallas could never score any rushing touchdowns despite so much red zone usage for their running backs, that led to Lamb getting a boost in terms of touchdown production. We will see some regression from Lamb in terms of pass to rushing touchdown ratio in Dallas for 2024. Dallas has had a negative pass rate over expectation in the red zone last season. Over the last 12 seasons, no wide receiver that has led the league in red zone targets has finished higher than wide receiver 3 overall the following season. Number 2, Justin Jefferson. Jefferson finished the 2023 season 5th in points per game, 16.8, despite missing 7 games and losing starting quarterback Kirk Cousins. Amid the issues, he had a standout season with 68 catches from 100 targets, gaining a total of over 1,000 receiving yards. Jefferson found the end zone 5 times, with the Vikings leading the NFL in pass rate over expectation in the red zone. He commanded a 28% target share, 41% air yard share, and finished 8th in total weighted opportunity. And before Cousins' injury, he led all wide receivers in fantasy points scored at nearly 22 points per game, 21.7 per game. Last but not least, unveiling my number 1 wide receiver for the 2024 season, Jamar Chase. The Bengals offense could look different in 2024, but one thing remains certain in my eyes: Jamar Chase is going to be the focal point of this offense. He finished with an impressive stat line last year with 100 catches, which was a career high on 145 targets. He saw a 26% target share, amassing over 1,200 receiving yards. He scored 7 touchdowns while ranking top 10 in red zone targets. The Bengals offense ranked 3rd in pass rate over expectation in the red zone. Over 16 games, Chase averaged a strong 13.3 points per game as a wide receiver 13, but we know Chase left production on the table without his healthy quarterback. From weeks 1 through 10 with Joe Burrow, Chase averaged 16.2 points per game as a wide receiver 6 and scored 19.6 expected points per game, which ranked 5th. Simply put, Chase is my wide receiver 1. I think he can and will lead the NFL in red zone targets in 2024. He led the NFL in red zone targets per game over the last 2 seasons. And his last 23 games played with Joe Burrow over the last 2 seasons, Chase has averaged nearly 2 red zone targets per game, 43 total, and the same rate as Lamb this past season. Red zone targets are the path of least resistance to find a number 1 overall wide receiver season. The last 5 number 1 overall wide receivers in fantasy football finished first in the NFL red zone targets the year they finished number 1. Chase red zone targets. There you have it, folks. The cream of the crop that'll shine the brightest come 2024 draft season, punching your ticket to championship glory. Those are my top 24 rankings. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And again, ring the bell till it goes ding, because we got more fantasy insight coming your way all off season. But we know at Fantasy Pros, there really is no off season. But before you go, again, if you want a chance to win a premium 1-year subscription to Fantasy Pros, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below this video, and that is it. I'm announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Thanks for watching.